Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of podcasts. We have cookies.
Cookies? Me love cookies.
Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. I'm CJ, host of Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. My episodes focus on crimes committed by and against the LGBTQ community. I've covered cases you probably have heard of, such as Matthew Shepard, Brandon Tina, and the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre, as well as some lesser-known cases like the murder of Ray Hainish, the Australian gay beat murders, and the suspicious disappearance of Lisa Lynn Stone. I cover cases brought to me by listeners like Penny Brummer, who I believe was wrongfully convicted, taboo cases such as lesbian corrective rape and murder in South Africa, and Pray the Gay Away camps. I discuss gay serial killers, women who pretend to be men to hook up with other women, and trans murders. I'm opinionated and uncensored. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but surely I'm someone's shot at tequila. No matter what your gender or orientation in life might be, please join me as I tackle rainbow crimes in search of unicorn justice. Remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.
Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm a fall version of Dylan.
Hey.
I'm just a dry leaf blowing on the wind. You know what I'm saying?
You're very spookylicious.
It's very spookalicious. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
The writing's on the wall.
That little candy corn outfit you're wearing is nice.
Can I say that was really clever, Heather? Spookalicious and superstitious. Just like the song. That was really good.
How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing better than I deserve, right?
Okay. Well, you know, there are people out there who will tell you to have the day you deserve, and I always say, well, thank you. Because I deserve to have a great day.
I do deserve to have a great day. Thank you.
You know why? Because I stay in my own lane.
You stay in your lane. Oh my
Therefore,
gosh.
I deserve to have a phenomenal day. Thank you so much for telling me to have a great day.
You know, or the day you deserve, rather.
Well,
because they don't want you to have a great day.
Yeah, well,
when they say that.
Haters gonna hate, Dylan. We all know this.
Indeed, haters will always gonna hate. It's true.
But I don't let that stop me.
No, because that's what you're
From living my BEST life.
what you're describing is flossing, and haters always try to stop a fool when they flossing.
Yeah, and you know what? I floss, and I have impeccable dental hygiene.
Oh my God.
Because I floss.
It's like a
Dylan,
mom
how
joke.
are you? I've been trying to get this out of you for 2 seconds now. How you doing?
I'm doing. I think people can tell I'm doing incredibly well.
Okay, good.
How are you, Heather?
You know, I've had a few hiccups the last week or so, but I am hanging in there.
You always say that.
Ain't nobody gonna break my stride. Ain't nobody gonna hold me down.
Oh no, she's got to keep it moving
and grooving.
You gotta stop. I could just do songs the whole episode.
I mean, I could go all day, but we don't have to do that.
Well,
Dylan and I have a really interesting true crime case for us to discuss today. It is going to be a lengthy episode.
Oh my gosh.
I have a lot of information to get through.
You told me to bring supplies to the podcast room.
Yeah, where are my snacks?
We're not allowed to eat on them.
I see no snacks.
We're going to have to do an episode where we're allowed to do anything we want.
You're the snack. Is that what you're telling me?
I would love to have ice in my beverage, but it makes too much noise.
Oh, well, no. Because you'll be crunching on it.
I would like to have crisps, too, while I'm podcasting.
You want to have crisps?
Crisps. Chips. They're
Crisps.
so good. I love the crunch.
I love a good crunchy snack as well, Dylan. You know, there is something that for some reason it has popped in my head the last couple of days. I've been thinking about it.
Wow.
And that is the Stephen Avery case.
Okay.
Making a Murderer.
Yeah.
Right? And since that docuseries was released, they've tried to appeal this man's sentence and whatever. But I've started thinking about, is he guilty? Is he innocent? Because in the light of that docuseries, and I don't know why I've been thinking about it lately, there was a lot of information that came out that had been excluded from the docuseries.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And I think people are well aware. I didn't mean to cut
Oh,
you
I was
off.
just saying it was a very skewed
Yeah.
documentary.
And
docuseries.
I'm going to say it was a big deal because I feel like it changed things in the true crime, whatever landscape or that arena.
No, I think it sparked what we're seeing today.
Yeah, and I think people are well aware when you watch a documentary, it is through the aspect of the people who are making it. So you're going to get their perception, they're going to edit, they're going to put it together the way they want to, and they're going to do it in a way that proves their point if they have a point to be made. I mean, that's common sense, really. But some people argued for a long time, and I was actually argued up back at those people for a bit, that went way too far, and they left out some very important elements that actually could be considered, for all intents and purposes, exculpatory evidence that could actually swing it the other way. I might be using that term wrong, but anyway, important evidence. And you know what? The more and more I've seen the tidbits, I have a theory now, and I think we share that same theory. I think Stephen Avery is actually guilty, and I think his poor nephew got drug into his bullshit, Brandon Dassey.
Yes.
He got drug into his bullshit, and I think Brandon is either innocent or he was used in some way by his uncle because he has obvious signs of having a lower IQ and things like that. So I think if anyone's innocent in this situation, it's Mr. Dassey, poor guy. And I just don't know about Stephen Avery anymore. I'm not so sure about.
I'm not either, and it kind of makes me want to go back and rewatch that docuseries.
Let's do it.
Because for some reason I've just been thinking about that case the last couple of days.
Okay.
I don't know why. It just popped in my head, Dylan. All right. Are you ready to get into today's story? Like I said, this is chock full of information. And I'm going to give you a lot of background.
Okay.
But I think it's important to understand all of these details and how they create our situation that we find ourselves in.
I must say I'm ready, and we're going to dive straight in because, like Heather said, it's going to be a long episode and a lot of information. But every time you warn us of this, it's a great story for one, and I think we'll all agree, me and the listeners, that all that information is important to give you perspective on the end game of the story.
I feel like this is one of those cases where we need to know all of this background. Are you ready, Dylan? Well, let's get into it. Ira Samuel Einhorn was born May 15th, 1940 to parents B and Joseph Einhorn. And by the way, Einhorn means unicorn in German.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of people out in the true crime world will reference this as the unicorn murder.
Okay.
And you may be asking why. It's because Einhorn means unicorn.
Einhorn. I love German language. It's so harsh.
Beatrice Niesenson, Ira's mother, would always be his biggest supporter. She was a third-generation American. Her mother had been born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. B's mother worked at the Wanamaker's department store, which was considered a fancy retailer in those days, Dylan, so a rich people's store.
Wanamaker's.
Wanamaker's. And her father was an installment man.
Ooh.
Now, do you know what an installment man is?
No, but I know I could do the job.
Well, he would lend money to those who couldn't afford things like washing machines and couches, finance the items, and even earn more than the triple. Like, he would triple the original price in the end.
So he's the original Rent-A-Center or Aaron's.
Yes. Long before they had the rental companies, this guy would take you to the store, allow you to pick out whatever big ticket item you were interested in.
Okay.
He would pay for it, then you would sign like a promissory note, and he would collect money from you.
With interest.
So he is the installment man.
He's like a loan shark with integrity and morals.
Well, he would lend money to those who couldn't afford things, again, like the washing machines, and then he would earn more than triple the original price. Installment men of that time collected the money in person. As you can imagine, they were not very popular visitors. He earned handsomely, and the family never went without. Joseph was a few blocks away, living in a neighborhood tenement building. His father had immigrated from Russia and ran a produce store. Joseph decided to follow in his footsteps, getting into the fruit business.
Oh, wow.
When Bee was 15, she met Joseph through cousins. She recalled that he was sweet, which she found most attractive. The couple courted for a year before marrying in 1935. Joe was considered quiet and sincere, while his wife was the more outgoing and ambitious one.
Oh, wow. Sounds like us. I'm quiet and sincere.
Yeah, you're not quiet. I'm the quiet one. After marriage, Bee worked as a typist for Dunn and Bradstreet, eventually becoming a department head. She encouraged her husband to abandon the fruit business and get into installments like her father. Despite the Depression, the Einhorns squeaked by without missing meals. They had a lovely apartment near a bustling intersection where subway and trolley lines met. The Jewish community in which they lived was insular, yet the couple, like most in the neighborhood, were proud to be Americans. Their determination to succeed in the country that allowed them to escape the old world, that really meant something to these people.
Right.
For themselves, they worked hard and hoped to secure generational wealth to pass on to their children, who would benefit most from their efforts.
Sometimes you will see people who immigrate here, and they'll almost have like a bigger, or they should maybe show it more than actually people, naturalized citizens who are born here. They have a love for this country.
They do.
Because it changed their life in huge, substantial ways. And they're very, very patriotic, for lack of a better word.
No, it's true, Dylan. The Einhorns were a middle-class Jewish family. Joseph suffered from ulcers and had been granted a deferment when World War II broke out, but he was sent to work in the shipyards. Bee left her position to care for their infant son. The shipyard proved difficult with Joseph's health issues, so he was given a job driving a cab, which was somehow a defense-related position.
Oh.
Right. He loved cars and was an excellent mechanic. After the war, he would open a used car business, and his wife would keep the books. Bee later said her son Ira was, quote, the most beloved child. The couple welcomed a second son, Stephen, 4 years after Ira's birth. Stephen and Ira were very different. We see that a lot among siblings.
It's true.
Stephen suffered several ailments as a young child, and it has been said that Ira was the star of the family. Joseph wasn't much of a disciplinarian, so Bee was the one who oversaw the children. Bee was amazed by Ira's brilliance, delivering mostly praise instead of punishments. Ira said in an interview, quote, my mother lavished a tremendous amount of attention on me before I started school. She fed my curiosity and was teaching me at the 3rd grade level before I went to kindergarten at 5. Aside from giving me a strong ego, this tutoring made me a freak in my milieu when I entered school.
Oh my God. They're like, this kid knows everything already. Teacher's like, what do I do?
His mother encouraged Ira to read, and he read all the time. At dinner, Ira had a book in hand. If the family went on vacation, Ira carried a stack of books. The boy would sleep only 4 to 5 hours a night. His mother would find him in bed reading at early morning hours. Like, she would go to wake him up for school, and he would already be up having read halfway through a book before school started.
He's got like a flannel robe on. He's sitting and, smoking a pipe in his wingback leather chair in the library. Like, oh, I was going to get you up, son, but you're already ready.
Bee was a skilled bridge player, and Ira often watched her play. When he was around 10 years old, his mother recalled Ira reading a book about bridge. He would underline passages and study the information intently. Then one day, he announced he was ready to play bridge. His mother indulged the boy and was surprised when she found he was a formidable opponent.
And
He began playing bridge with B's friends, and they would often call the house to see if Ira was available for a game.
Oh my gosh. And I did not realize till not long ago, I actually watched a documentary about a scandal in the bridge community. Someone was actually cheating at a very high level, and bridge is a very complicated game. I mean, it really is. I just thought it was some goofy card game, you know?
I know nothing about bridge.
It is, it's a big deal. And if you know, you know.
However, the boy exhibited behavior problems in school despite the fact that he was so intelligent. He stated it was due to boredom. Though the school had suggested Ira skip 3 years ahead to be on grade level, Joseph worried about the social implications and refused. Therefore, Ira was held back at his age level. Ira felt he wasn't learning and said he threw up every morning before school because of this overwhelming anxiety to go sit in this classroom where he was getting absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I would worry about that because you hear that often, children that are, skipped ahead 2 or 3 years, the social aspect. They're a lot younger, smaller than all their classmates, don't have the same interest. So I would be concerned about that as well. But at the same time, you have a child having this type of anxiety every day before school. That's something you need to try to address in some form.
His restlessness would be disruptive. He would call out to teachers, didn't stay in his seat, and often wandered out of the classroom. Though his grades were outstanding, his marks for behavior were typically a P for poor.
See, I had the same thing happen in school, so I realize now I must have been a genius that whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Problems continued when the family moved to a new neighborhood and Ira transferred schools. The principal called within an hour of Ira's first day. She told B that even if Ira was an excellent student academically, his behavior would prevent the school from awarding him good grades.
Wow.
Instead, the school recognized the problem and began challenging Ira with additional work.
Like college level formulas and stuff.
If they could keep him busy, Ira could improve his behavior. And guess what, Dylan? It worked.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So they start kind of, what would you call that? Like an individualized learning plan or what?
Yeah, maybe.
So he's paying him some particular...
Or almost like some independent study where he's given, they're making an exception for Ira, giving him other work to do.
And I don't blame them for keep bringing it up because it's a big deal. Just because he is ahead and bored, other students need an environment where they can learn. So, his behavioral issues affect everyone around him.
In 1950, the family purchased a lovely 2-story home in a Jewish neighborhood in northwest Philadelphia. The white flight was happening all over. White families were moving to the suburbs, leaving only poor, typically minority families to the high-rise apartment buildings in the city.
I would call that the affluent flight.
Though most parents in the neighborhood were not college graduates, it was expected that their children would be. Education mania swept through this neighborhood. In high school, there was a lot of pressure to attend Central High. It was an all-male college preparatory school considered competitive. Ira had no problems, quote, making Central. His grades were outstanding, and according to B, his IQ was genius level in the upwards of 140.
Oh, wow.
By the time Ira entered high school, he was already a distinctive figure. He was the first in the neighborhood to wear Bermuda shorts.
Wow, that's building a legend right there.
Ira had confidence. He didn't care what everyone else wore, and he dared to be different. He discovered the beat poets, meaning the beatniks, Dylan. Though West Oak Lane in Philadelphia was a far cry from Greenwich Village. Ira's flow of language was impressive. He would mesmerize people with an extensive vocabulary, sometimes challenging teachers with his subject matter knowledge.
Oh my gosh.
Ira would respond to book club advertisements in the back of magazines. He would order comprehensive collections of philosophy, history, and mathematics. When friends would ask how he planned to pay for the books, Ira would laugh and say, quote, "I'm a minor. What are they going to do to me?" Ah, the days of Columbia House Records?
Yeah.
I think so many of us, not that I'm admitting guilt, ordered tapes and CDs with absolutely no plan to ever pay for those things.
Well, you pay down 99 cents or
It was
something.
a penny.
A penny?
It was like tape a penny to this postcard and get
Yeah.
10 CDs for a penny.
Dude, and they just keep sending them too. They were desperate for you to pay for those.
Yeah.
You know, you probably made good people lose their jobs with that bullshit.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you just admitted to defrauding Columbia House.
I did not. I'm just saying there were a lot of people out there who were doing that back in the day. Ira had been considered a skinny kid, but became obsessed with physical fitness the summer between his sophomore and junior years. When he showed up for school, he had transformed into a Hulk. He was doing 100 push-ups every 10 minutes.
Oh my God, I was just about to say, I fight this kid, but I don't know if I can take him.
This new physique only fed into Ira's established ego. He played football, ran cross-country, and was a wizard at ping pong.
I love ping pong, but I'm not very good at it.
That's how you impress, is being a ping pong champion.
A big muscled up ping pong champion.
You just watch me on the ping pong table, bro. He was full of contradictions as well. He was a poet and a scientist, a jock and an intellectual, a rebel and a middle-class Jew. He attended the senior prom in jeans and a shirt, refusing to wear the tuxedo his mother had procured. The stunt threatened his graduation from Central, but one of his favorite teachers intervened. The teacher told B, quote, "I ought to wring the boy's neck, but I cannot deny the world Ira."
Oh, dang. That's a pretty good, I don't even know what to say. No one's ever said anything like that about me.
No, I'm trying to deny the world of Dylan.
Will you say that about me? Because you just cut me loose, baby. Just cut me loose on the world.
No.
Like a virus. I want to
No.
infect everybody.
No. 'Cause
Yes.
No. In the fall of 1957, Ira entered the University of Pennsylvania. He was already railing against the establishment. If a professor assigned 10 books with 100 suggestions for supplemental reading, Ira would read the 100 first before he would read the posted material.
He's like a rebel, like a smart rebel.
Ira was known to challenge professors, often citing obscure works that contradicted their lectures. He would ask, "Did you even read this?"
Now, could you imagine being in the classroom? You know, kids always have this kind of thing against the teachers, you know, or let alone seeing a teacher proved wrong beyond a shadow of a doubt. I would be in amazement watching this kid go back and forth with the teacher, wouldn't you?
Well, he would often reference the assigned reading material and then be like, "Did you even read this?"
Well, that's a valid point, honestly.
It seemed he was set on classroom destruction. One professor was a match for Ira. His name was Morse Peckham, and he was called both a prize and pariah in the English department. Like Ira, Peckham thought the mind was the only life. He dressed elegantly and smoked cigarettes in a long white holder.
So, Mr. Peckham, I could tell you instantly that this is not a guy to be messed with. Mr. Morris Peckham.
It's Morse.
Morse?
Morse. Like Morse code.
Morse?
Yeah, Morse Peckham.
Even more so.
His knowledge spanned beyond one discipline. He was a man who felt his peers, though most holding advanced degrees, were insipid. Ira had been a physics major, that is, until he took a Peckham course. He didn't find the science courses challenging, so Ira switched to literature his sophomore year and began to see a father figure in Peckham. Surprisingly, the hypercritical Peckham found a kindred spirit in Einhorn. Though Ira was in courses with the university's best and brightest students, he stood out. Peckham appreciated the thoughtful way Ira expressed himself verbally, something that Peckham rarely saw even among the best students. Ira and Peckham became inseparable. They were often seen having coffee together and would meet at the man's home for conversation. Peckham even gave Ira a key to his house.
Whoa.
Whispers of homosexual relationships were not uncommon when it came to the pair. Peckham refuted this claim and said, quote, "In Ira, I found someone I could try these ideas on because I didn't have anybody else." Peckham considered Ira a good companion who didn't mind listening to 15 hours of Wagner's Ring Cycle in silence.
Now, but I mean, it's almost natural inclination to think that possibly, look, they got me trying to use big words. Possibly an inappropriate relationship. If you heard someone describe, no matter what's really going on, this type of relationship between a teacher and a student, it's gonna make you wonder, right? I mean, giving him a key to his house. I mean, that seems like a lot to me.
Well, it really seems to me, just through the research, that Morse Peckham was a very brilliant man.
Right.
And he had a very difficult time relating to other people. He felt like they were just not on his level.
He's so smart. He's eccentric. And all that.
Intellectually. Yeah. And in Ira, he did find a true companion, like someone he could have a thoughtful discussion with and get feedback. And Ira would make, important points.
And I think they both viewed each other like that.
Yeah.
As someone who is on their level, if you will.
Exactly.
But it wouldn't surprise me that the tongues were a wagging.
Well, yeah. I mean, people are always going to find something to gossip about.
Are you going over there and doing the homosexuals with that teacher? People say stupid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Ira wished to be a cultural historian, studying philosophy, English, medicine, psychology, math, and other subjects. He devoured books and could read for 20 hours straight.
Good night.
Peckham encouraged him to stay at Penn and earn a graduate degree. However, Ira felt a conventional career was a waste. He had worked summers at the post office and in a blast furnace. He wanted a lifetime occupation of learning, not earning a living. Though Ira was earning impeccable grades, he often skipped classes. In his junior year, he spent 6 months in California and in Vermont. He relied on the goodwill of professors to pass his final papers as proof he'd mastered the course, because his attendance was lacking. Only one professor gave Ira a failing grade during his last semester. He needed to repeat the course during a summer session to graduate. Ira refused. Friends tried to sway him. B drove to the college campus to speak with the professor. The teacher told her, quote, "I don't even know what your son looks like. How can I pass him?"
Well, and she's got a good point. I mean, it's great that you're smart and, have ripped through all the course material, or you might have already knew it before you even got here, but you still need to participate, right?
Ira may have had a rebellious heart, but ultimately he changed his mind. He attended the summer session. Yet he complained to his mother and friends that he knew more than the professor and should be teaching the course. Finally, he finished in 1961, earning an AB. A friend, which I'm assuming is some sort of bachelor's degree. It just said AB. I'm not sure what that is. A friend noticed that Ira had a way of manipulating people into leading a life he thought was best for them. So he could be a life coach.
He could be a life coach.
If a friend were married with a young child but pursuing an advanced degree, Ira would encourage the friend to abandon the wife and child to, quote, truly live. He wanted people to seek more unconventional lifestyles, which Ira thought were more fulfilling.
Wait a second. Maybe he shouldn't be a life coach.
Ira would tell friends books they should read, philosophies they should consider, and ideas they should ponder. One friend called him a cultural Bolshevik. Well, Dylan, in order to reach your full potential, I feel like you're going to have to ditch your wife and children and go on the road.
No. Well, I'm going to go on the road, but I'm not going to ditch my wife because she's the one that uplifts me and makes me the best me.
Ira spent much of 1962 traveling. He hadn't worked yet and spent his time reading mostly. So he's got this degree, but he's not really doing anything with it. He's just hanging out, reading books.
Now, do you think it's we've discussed this before, like these people that seem to be either lifetime students or end up going into teaching or, professor or something because...
Like academia?
It's called academia by some people because it's really the best fit for them because they just don't maybe relate. I'm not going to say the real world, but like the working class world, if you will.
I mean, maybe, Dylan. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not for you, though.
No, well, I've considered a life in academia as well since I just learned that word.
I'm
apparently.
sure you have.
And but they won't have me.
Honey, you don't even know how to attach a document to an email. So
I don't need to.
I'm not sure that being a professor is for you.
How about, look, if you just text me, don't be doing that email stuff. That
true.
Next generation mail. I don't do it.
You just send it to me in a letter because I don't know how to use a fax machine either.
I don't have a lot of experience with fax machines.
I know.
How did you know
I
that?
know, because you don't know anything about office equipment. It's kind of cute and also a little sad. Okay, so Ira spent time in Bennington, Vermont, living with a girlfriend that he'd met while an undergraduate. He had friends in New York City and would crash at their Greenwich Village apartment. He made trips to Chicago and Ohio. Peckham was in Europe. He invited Ira to join him, but the young man rejected this offer, saying he needed to, quote, have some sort of perspective on Ira first.
Okay.
So I guess he needs to figure his life out, his direction, before he can join his friend in Europe. Right? Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
he was telling Ira he needed to have more perspective on himself?
No. Morse Peckham is inviting Ira to come to Europe.
Okay.
But Ira says, I can't join you. I need to get some perspective on Ira first. Like, I need to figure myself out before I can come join you in Europe.
Okay. I mean, I kind of want to fight Ira, dude. I mean, he's really full of himself, too.
Oh, you just wait. You're going to really want to fight him. People noticed Ira's mood swings. Sometimes he spoke passionately to others about subjects like William Blake and Friedrich Nietzsche, for example. One young woman was so shaken by Ira's outburst that she ran to her room crying, nearly hysterical.
Oh, so he would just like get really loud and
and just be
very
so
passionate.
passionate about the subject matter that he would freak people out to the point that, like, this woman ran to her room crying.
It's the Bolshevik Revolution, you son of a bitch. Don't you care?
Don't you want to know about the Third Punic War? In 1963, Peckham returned from Europe and asked Ira to consider graduate school seriously. He offered to pay Ira's tuition if Ira would go to grad school. But Ira was offered the Ashton Fellowship, so he actually didn't need more money at all. After finishing their books, Ira began writing authors and even met a few of his favorites. So this was like become a hobby, is to reach out to writers that he finds particularly interesting.
I just read your book, and if you don't mind, I'd like to have, over coffee, I'd like to explain how you messed up your story.
Yeah, well, he started correspondence with some of his favorite writers, even going to meet some of them. At Penn, Ira was again described as a positive life force. He met dozens of girls, and Ira was into partying. He reunited with some old high school friends who had returned home from college. So graduate school was kind of a different ballgame for him. He started to partake a little more in the 60s because the counterculture movement of the 1960s was creeping in. Ira was more than happy to discuss civil rights and anti-war sentiments. He began experimenting with drugs like marijuana and LSD. Many speculated for years that Ira was financing his lifestyle by selling drugs. Some thought Ira acted as a mule, bringing home bricks of pot from California. Another close friend said Ira was never in it to make money, but only to pay the rent.
That's making money. If you make money to pay your rent.
Well, yeah.
He's not trying to get rich doing it. He's just barely doing it just enough to get by.
Well, I think that's the point, Dylan. Yes.
Sorry,
Thank you for explaining that to us in a very elementary way, as if we could not read between lines. Yes, Dylan. That's it, bud. If Ira had pot, he would often give it to his friends. He sold it merely to pay bills. But it was described as he was very generous and mostly didn't even charge friends for it. It was only like if he needed to pay a bill that he'd be like, well, you know.
Okay.
I need 5 on it.
Yeah, you got 5 on it?
Ira never had stacks of cash or rolls of money. Einhorn felt it was his mission to lay bare the phoniness of educational institutions. He often created a spectacle in the process, so much that his words jeopardized the renewal of his scholarship. Friends told him, quote, all you need to do is play the game this way. Yeah, Ira felt the way you learn from life was not by playing the game. I mean, he's a man after my heart in this aspect. Think of Ira as an intense Holden Caulfield. He did things the way he wanted to do them. So without hesitation, he quits the graduate program.
Oh, wow.
Peckham was shocked. He thought graduate school would prepare Ira for a career, but Ira wasn't interested in getting a job. Peckham harbored deep doubts about his protege. Ira's support and use of drugs made Morse Peckham uncomfortable. Ira tried touting the value of mind-expanding narcotics and encouraged Peckham to try marijuana once. During a school meeting, Ira went on a tirade about the virtues of pot, and the academics were appalled. The final straw for Peckham was when people suspected Ira was keeping drugs in his cellar. The professor could potentially be implicated in a drug scandal. Morse Peckham was encouraged to change the locks on his house. This created an irreparable rift between the two. Ira began telling people that Peckham had wanted a sexual relationship, but Peckham argued that he had, quote, dismissed Ira.
You can leave now, sir.
Yes, and you will no longer have access to my cellar.
You take that and your pot and you get the hell out of here, you son of a bitch. But, you know, we view marijuana through the 2023 lens, and it's not so bad. I think a lot of people think that way nowadays.
It's legal in a lot of places.
But back then, this is not that long after. Yeah, and the counterculture's cranking up, and parents are, you know, marijuana is a big part of that. And parents are really worried about their kids doing this devil's cabbage.
The devil's harvest.
Yes.
Yes. The debauchery.
Lots of debauchery and apparently like just mania.
It's true. Those jazz cigarettes. Peckham had been Ira's guru, but now Ira wanted to be the guru.
Well, and that doesn't surprise me because his ego, I think, is about as big as his intellect is.
Holly Maddux was a typical girl of her era. She was born on May 26th of 1947 in the small town of Tyler, Texas. Described by friends as a loner, Holly was brilliant and earned excellent grades. She might have been considered a nerd if Holly had not been stunningly beautiful.
So you have a very attractive nerd girl?
Well, she's just really smart and really pretty, but she just does her own thing.
That's like a whole genre now. You know that, right?
What?
They're like a super attractive, hot nerd girls who like game and all that stuff.
Oh, but they take sexy pictures for their OnlyFans gaming?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those.
I mean, I've never watched anything like that, but
Yeah.
it's like a Twitch thing or something.
Well, it came as a surprise to friends when Holly decided she was going to try out for high school cheerleading. Up until that point, Holly had never shown any interest in cheerleading. Others said Holly was a misfit in Tyler. She didn't fit in at all. She had an air of elegance and culture. Unlike the other residents of Tyler, Holly didn't have the slow Southern Texas drawl, but spoke without an accent. Even in high school, Holly had a certain sophistication lacking in other girls her age. Holly's sister Buffy recalled Holly as, quote, gorgeous but not pretentious, intelligent but not snotty about it.
She sounds really cool.
A slender girl who was 5'7" with fair skin and dark blonde hair, Holly became a magnet for boys. The Maddux household was large. Holly was the oldest of 5 siblings. Parents Fred and Liz were small-town conservatives who attended church regularly and were strict disciplinarians. Fred had served in the Marine Corps and was a no-nonsense parent. These were children raised with manners. Holly's brother recalls the rigid yes, sir, no, sir raising they experienced.
Do you think you would thrive in this type of environment?
Probably not, but I can do it.
You can fake it, right? I can fake it.
Yeah, I'm really good at faking shit.
I fake it, but I never make it. But
I mean,
it don't
I've
even
been
matter.
faking shit for 5 years of this marriage, and you have no clue. So.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, I know, honey. The body tells me.
Yeah.
The body tells me everything I need to know.
Okay. Throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah, baby, throw up.
So, 1965. At the age of 18, Holly moved away from home to study in Philadelphia. Though she was a good girl who had abided by her parents' rules as a teenager, Holly was ready to spread her wings and gain the independence most young people crave. You know, her dad was set on Holly attending Texas A&M so she could stay close to home, but she was like, nope, I'm out of here.
Not happening.
I'm getting the hell out of here. Holly was interested in art and hoped to study at university. For a bit, she attended Gwinnett College. Big city life was abrupt, and it took Holly some time to adapt. For a girl who had a slight rebellious streak back in Texas, sometimes fighting against the structure of her own parents' beliefs, she came to the East Coast just as the Vietnam War had growing opposition. Young people were often protesting and marching. Holly was swept up in the movement. To her, American involvement in Vietnam was inexplicable. To add confusion, Holly's brother joined the military in their father's footsteps. So he's fighting a war that Holly opposes. And this did cause her like a bit of inner conflict. In 1972, Holly met someone. His name was Ira Einhorn, a University of Pennsylvania graduate and a part-time lecturer at Harvard University. He was an intellectual and self-appointed freedom fighter.
Freedom, self-appointed, no less.
Holly was reading and having coffee one day when Ira approached her. He approved her book choice, telling her she, quote, had a beautiful mind. Ira claimed that he had not noticed Holly's physical beauty because he had already fallen in love with her brain.
That's a good line.
You would say that, but I would know you were full of shit. But someone might fall for it.
Baby, I love your brain too, but I notice your beauty as well.
Okay, see, now I know you're a damn lie.
Okay.
Ira's main work during this time was as an activist. He ran as an alternative third-party candidate for mayor of Philadelphia. Ira has risen through the ranks of Philadelphians to establish himself as a well-known person around town. He was somewhat of like a local celebrity, right?
I would run and lead the People's Party as your alternative to what we have going on in both parties.
He was bright and vocal and became an anti-war activist. Some viewed him as an up-and-coming superstar of politics. Ira would later claim to be the founder of Earth Day.
Oh my gosh, dude, damn.
And he was very active and did, lobby for like environmental causes and that kind of thing. And he actually was at the Earth Day celebration, but others dispute that he was the founder of Earth Day. Ira was a worldly man who fascinated the young, impressionable Holly. Ira's shaggy beard and long hair were considered modern and hip then. The hippie culture was in full swing. Holly and Ira became a pair, eventually moving in together. Holly had been naive and inexperienced. Back in Tyler, Fred Maddux kept a close watch on his daughter. Though allowed to date at 16, Fred had laid down the law regarding expectations, which he freely shared with the boys who picked her up for dates. Often Fred, with his gruff exterior, would be cleaning a shotgun on the porch when the gentleman callers would arrive.
Dude, I was literally about to make that joke, but he's really doing this.
Now, I didn't even write this in my script here, but one thing you should know about Fred, so he fought during World War II, and I guess he had, a lot of feelings about the war. He drove around in a car with a license plate on the front that said Führer.
Wow.
Some people thought that was a bit strange, considering he had fought the Nazis. But other people were like, well, he kind of runs his house in this very regimented type of way.
He's like,
so it was almost like this joke.
Oh, okay.
Like he thought it was funny.
I'm
but
the
other
Führer
people
now.
thought it was not okay. And there were also stories of how he had a Nazi flag hanging in the house. And people would ask, like, why do you have that? You fought against the Nazis. But he was like, yeah, this is a reminder of where I've been and how far I've come. But some people just couldn't wrap their head around that.
And see, in an instance like
and thought
that,
it was like very strange.
well, in an instance like that, it's almost like I captured your flag. There it is. We won. But like even especially in this day and age, people can't wrap their head around. They see the symbol and they just automatically assume a bunch of stuff about you. Even though here you have a World War II vet who literally fought Nazis and beat them.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that.
No, that's a very good perspective on him. Yes.
Ira had stints teaching at Temple University in the late 1960s, but his contract still needed to be renewed, and the college did not offer an extension. It likely related to his openness discussing LSD and marijuana with students. He took a year off to do some writing, but the truth is, Ira was a terrible writer. This was a source of frustration for him. Ira had gone to California, fully embracing the hippie movement. He attended protests, dropped acid, went to Grateful Dead concerts. He traveled from Haight-Ashbury to Santa Cruz, then to Berkeley. Many considered him a wandering Buddha. In California, he had taken pleasure in the revolutions happening around him. So before she meets Ira, Holly had entered Bryn Mawr College, but she didn't fit in among the sophisticated elites attending the all-girls school, which was a far cry from Tyler, Texas. One friend said Holly was the same as she was in Texas, a misfit. The college was an intense place and very scholarly. It was academic in the classical sense. People who were self-motivated and self-driven went there. One person described it as, quote, being full of good little girls who studied and did their homework. Yet Holly was engulfed in avant-garde youth culture at the school. She was introduced to drugs, birth control pills, and new ideas about the future. One way Holly expressed herself was through dance. A freshman piece she performed was entitled Persecute Us Tomorrow, We're Busy.
Wow, I like that.
And it showcased Holly dancing as a clown. Though Holly was very skilled and talented, she never considered dancing professionally because she thought she was too big to be a dancer. At one point, Holly left Bryn Mawr to attend the Rhode Island School of Design. However, Rhode Island proved to be trouble for Holly. No one is sure what exactly happened to her, but in one version, her parents said a teacher had told Holly she wasn't good enough as an artist to cut it, and that she would never work as a professional artist.
You're not Rhode Island Institute for Design material, Holly.
This was crushing for her. She didn't return after the first semester. Sometime during Holly's experience in Rhode Island, she became pregnant. She had an abortion, which was not legal at the time. And this seemed to deeply impact her for years to come. Before meeting Ira, she worked as a proofreader for TV Guide. Finally, she found a job she liked better at the Philadelphia Zoo. Holly returned to Bryn Mawr and graduated in 1971, though she didn't know what exactly the next step would be. Ira told an interviewer, quote, she moved in with me about 10 days after I first laid eyes upon her, and that was either late September or early October of 1972. A stormy relationship is one way to describe the 5 years that Holly and Ira spent together. Ira felt he had too much to celebrate, but needed someone to celebrate with. Holly was just plain needy, but she had learned hard lessons about the world and relationships since leaving Texas. With his intelligence and charm, Ira seemed to know everybody and was quickly the most dynamic person Holly had ever been with. She was mesmerized by Ira. At first glance, friends thought Holly was too ethereal, lacking the substance and grit it would take to domesticate Ira, who had a reputation as a bit of a ladies' man. Though Holly was nice and sweet, she seemed very unsure of herself and was often described as problematic to talk to, perhaps because of her shyness. Having grown up with a dominant father, Holly found a surrogate in Ira Einhorn, and she allowed him to rule over her.
I know what you do with a shy person like this is you can't come directly at them, right? Because that makes them wilt in the face of conversation. So what you got to do is you got to go lean in the corner. You don't say anything to anybody, and you just smolder. And when she looks at you, don't look at her. Yeah, like you're uninterested in her completely. Next thing you know, she's like, well, what's your name?
Okay. When they would fight, Holly stormed out, often finding another place to sleep for the night, but would return the next day. Instant reconciliation would occur, and then they'd find something else to fight about within a few hours. Ira's mother embraced Holly, teaching her to make Jewish specialties like knishes. That's probably not how you say that. I think it's a knish. Holly did crafts, cooked, and made her own tofu.
Wow.
She finally landed a job working at a bakery. Her boss knew Ira, but felt the relationship was no good. He said, quote, she was like a planet revolving around Ira. Others saw Holly needing emotional support from Ira, which he would often withhold intentionally. Therefore, Holly seemed off balance. Holly and Ira were both willful. Some wondered why Holly argued with Ira at all, because he could out-argue anyone till the end of time. And he would not let up, and he was very smart, and people were like, there was just no way you could win an argument with Ira. But she would try.
Have you ever known anyone like that?
Probably,
That's that smart?
Probably just myself.
Okay.
I'm
Wow.
just kidding.
Wow. See, the truth. It all comes out in the wash, as they say up here in the mountains. Wow.
Ira would overwhelm Holly with his logic and scorn. They would take time apart. Holly would take off with another lover for a while. Then they would get back together again. Despite Ira's feelings that he should be able to explore sex with other women, he was jealous of men interested in Holly.
Funny how that works.
So Ira's into practicing free love, but when Holly practices free love, it's not okay.
And that's not selfish at all.
When Holly decided Ira should meet her parents, it would likely not go well. Her father had not been pleased to learn his daughter was, quote, shacking up with a man unmarried. Fred could not believe his daughter had chosen a Jewish hippie who advocated for illegal drugs and opposed U.S. government policies. During the trip to Texas, Ira was rude. It was as if he provoked the Madduxes to kick him out of the house. Ira wanted to alienate Holly from her family, but had been unable to. So perhaps this was the push he needed to get her family pissed off. He would leave, she would follow, and then Holly could be done with her family.
Yeah, and then he doesn't have to go around these people who don't seem to kind of openly have disdain for him, which I don't think he can handle that. You know what I mean? He has such a big ego, and he's so used to people loving him and, revolving around him, if you will. So, yeah, I could see that bothering. And then I'm sure her dad was a hard nut, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hard nose. He doesn't give in his position as well.
Oh, no.
And just the term Jewish hippie makes me laugh for some reason. He's like that old smart Jewish hippie, and he hates the American policies. But I could see a person like Ira being like almost the embodiment of the worst kind of guy her father would want him.
Well, yeah, I mean, her father's a
with.
former Marine.
Yeah.
He's conservative. He's Christian, church going, like John Wayne, red-blooded American type of guy, right? And he sees this, counterculture, hippie, anti-war guy, and this is everything that he's, has voted against his whole life.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Holly's old friends from high school found Ira offensive. Ira spoke to Holly brusquely and bossed her around constantly. The only positive thing he did during the visit was tutor her younger sister in math. The Madduxes admitted that he was a very talented teacher, but otherwise they were not impressed with the man Holly had dragged in. In early 1974, Holly learned she was pregnant. She scheduled another abortion. Within weeks, Ira and Holly were discussing ending the relationship. Ira encouraged Holly to move out and find her own place. He dedicated a poem to her in March of 1974 entitled, "It's Over."
Oh my gosh. Come on. Stop it, dude.
No, it's a lot.
I just knew the title was going to be incredible.
Oh, this guy.
If you're reading this, Holly, just know that it's over before you even get started.
I'm going to write you a poem.
I'm going to write you. We should write each other poems. Poems. How you say it?
A poem.
Poems.
It's over.
I'm going to write you a poem, and I'm going to read it on the next episode.
Is it going to rhyme?
Well, yeah, why wouldn't it?
I'll write you a dirty limerick.
Oh, I might write you a dirty limerick.
Okay. I actually did write you a dirty limerick one time. I put it in your lunchbox.
You did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write you an inappropriate haiku.
Yes.
Yes.
Do it. I never really was good at writing haiku.
They're
Like I remember
tricky,
having to
bud.
write them in school,
Yeah.
and I could never do it right.
Ah, the syllables, it messes you up.
Soon after, Holly learned Ira had been sleeping with other women. Distraught, she left but quickly returned later. Then Holly began experiencing medical issues and realized she was hypoglycemic. In true New Age fashion, she started a series of diets ranging from medically conservative to downright flaky to try to cure her hypoglycemia. They spent the summer in Nova Scotia, even though they constantly fought. When new friends asked about Ira's job, Holly would say, quote, "He's a good manipulator."
Wow.
Yeah, this relationship just sounds fucking terrible.
I don't want to. I hate being around that couple that argues all the time over nothing.
Well, it sounds like Holly was very codependent.
Yeah.
And Ira just bossed her around, treated her like shit, and then all they do is fight and argue constantly. This sounds miserable.
You know, he recognizes her obviously being codependent, and he's using that against her. And he's a known manipulator. And I'm just like, why bother?
Well, she's kind of vulnerable. She's got low self-esteem. She's unsure of herself, not really sure like where she fits into the world. And then she gets with this guy who thinks he's the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And just downs her constantly. So how is she ever supposed to build any kind of self-esteem when she's got this shitty guy?
You got to build your significant other. You got to build them up.
You got to build them up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and you don't even have to tear them down first.
Ira began working on the network.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, I'm going to tell you. It started with Ira sending articles and just things of interest to friends, but soon the list grew to more than 350 recipients across the globe. So it's like this, I guess the network, it's like a networking type of information sharing mailing list.
Dude, he was doing like a blog long before blogs, I guess.
Kinda.
But it was like the who's who.
It was like he would collect news. It was almost like a newsletter, and he would collect articles and just send all of this information to people with little notes that he had made about what they should be considering and thinking when they're reading this. And
my God, this guy's insufferable. I'm sorry, it's too much.
So Ira would mail this like quote edgy information to involve himself further in the counterculture, establishing himself as a guru type. So in addition to the New Age books that he had written up until this point, Ira was moving from being a figure in Philadelphia to a more like globally known person. Like he really wants to be a Ken Kesey or an Allen Ginsberg, like a leader of the 60s and these movements.
Or a leader of the thought
Abby
revolution.
Hoffman. Yeah, he like wants to be one of these big leaders of this time. The network focused on subjects like parapsychology and the possibility of creating a new paradigm. Instead of being a political activist, he called himself a psychic organizer.
A psychic organizer. I feel like that's someone comes in to like straighten your closet out, but they already know what you need.
I already know your closet is some shit, so
Yeah.
I'm here to organize it.
And I brought all the
Exactly.
pieces that I need.
Man,
Everything's
somebody
ready.
needs to organize my closet. For real.
There's people that do that, and they'll put a whole system in there to like straighten your closet up.
It would just be messy in a few days.
You're not going to put anything back where it goes. You give me
I thrive in chaos.
you give me guff about
That is not true. When it comes to household items, I put everything back where it should go, so it's accessible to other people. When it comes to my own personal things, I thrive in chaos. But I don't understand why you would need to go in my closet. Are you going to wear my shoes? What do you care where they are?
You don't put stuff back where it goes in the refrigerator, and it fought me on that issue.
Where it goes in the refrigerator?
I have a dairy section for a reason, girl. I need to keep the vegetables up here where I can see them.
In the dairy section?
I'm
Why
s-
are your vegetables in the sea? You ain't even got no organization here. You chaotic. You crazy.
I'm gonna take pictures next time.
I'll have you know that the squash does not go in the dairy section.
The vegetables don't go in the dairy section. That's why it's on the bottom shelf.
Well, that's what you just said.
No,
So
and
here you are, making no sense.
You're just like the Jewish hippie.
Look, I'm a psychic organizer.
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm creating a new paradigm.
Okay, you just created a paradigm.
Quote, this is from Ira. Quote, you'd be amazed at the range of information I circulate. It's all over the edge of science, physiology, brain and body, all sorts of new psychic technologies, physics, mathematics, economics, solar energy, you name it. Ira's brain trust. In the spring of 1975, the pair decided to travel separately for the summer, which also meant they were open to sexual explorations with other people. Ira went to Europe, and Holly traveled to California. They would or would not reunite in August, depending on how things went. Despite Ira's concentration on the European adventure and sleeping with other women, he realized how deeply involved he was with Holly. He just couldn't stop thinking about her. When he couldn't reach her on a disconnected phone line in California, Ira pined to speak to her.
Well, it's funny how that works, isn't it? You've been dismissive and manipulative this entire relationship, like you're better than her and all this mess, and now you find yourself missing her while she's laid up with some new beau experimenting.
Meanwhile, Holly set out for California, intent on having a good time. She took 4 lovers during the summer. Holly wrote of the self-reflection she had experienced. She began confronting her fears of inferiority. Then Ira wrote a letter to her explaining he had reunited with a woman from his past before Holly, and he was the father of a child. Ira told Holly he would like to have children with her and finally understood the, quote, violation she'd experienced during the abortion.
From the sounds of it, a back alley abortion.
Yes.
Which I'm going to guess is a very traumatic situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Holly had a really hard time.
Well, yeah.
With the procedure, but also just the ramifications of that.
Right.
The aftermath, just emotionally, everything. When they reunited at the end of the summer, Ira proposed to Holly via a letter. He wanted to make the relationship work, but Holly worried about his reaction to her sexual trysts during their separation. Ira insisted he read her diary. But then Ira was livid. He said, "You'll pay for that. I have no faith in you."
Dude, you don't want to read anybody's diary like that. I mean, unless you can handle it.
Exactly.
Unless you can handle the super descriptive.
Why do you make it sound
lovers.
like her diary's like a penthouse forum?
Yes.
It's not.
When as the pizza man entered my house, he entered me.
Oh,
Ooh,
gosh.
I could write this
Came
stuff.
here to repair the TV.
Yeah.
It's like a log jamming from
No,
the
it's
Big Lebowski.
the plumber here to lay some pipe.
They did not marry. Instead, Holly was miserable in the old routine. Her body obsession returned, and Holly began experimenting with bulimia. One friend described Holly as, quote, so damn frail, and he was a bulldozer. There were rumors that Ira physically abused Holly too. One day, she showed up for like a therapeutic class with a bruise on her face. She told others that Ira had hit her. During the spring of 1976, Holly spent much time living away from Ira. She stayed in a commune. That would last for a couple of days. She would return to Ira's, then come back to the commune with a black eye or other injuries from physical fights. When friends asked why she kept returning to Ira's, she said, "I'm in love. What can I do?" Holly seemed to embrace more freedom by cutting her hair. She also inherited about $36,000 from a family trust, which meant Holly could live more comfortably. Up until that point, she'd been working part-time. She was getting welfare benefits, food stamps. But now she kind of had her own little nest egg, and she didn't really have to rely on Ira for help or support. She was able to kind of do her own thing. Which shows us, Dylan, financial freedom is so important.
Well, it's true. I practice a bit of a different financial freedom. There's not going to be any money from family trust. Trust me on that one. What I do is I just ignore my bills.
So you're just free.
I'm free.
You're free from money.
Nothing to worry about.
Okay.
And then the bill collectors, or they'll send me a message, a text, or whatever, call and be like, it's very important that you address such and such. I'm like, important to you because I'm not even thinking about it, bud.
Well, as I mentioned before, she had been relying on welfare and barely earning any money working at a food co-op. So this was a good thing for her to get this money. In 1977, Holly asserted her independence more, this time by auditioning to be a go-go dancer in the seedy part of town. It surprised Ira, who thought it was a terrible idea. For Holly, it was a step forward, a confidence-building act of defiance against her boyfriend. The dancing didn't last for long because Ira and Holly left for Europe. Of course, Holly was funding this trip, withdrawing $12,000 from the bank. Holly ended the trip early, returning to the States where she planned to find her own place. At 30, Holly was ready to live alone and embrace her freedom.
Well, it seems like every time I was noticing this pattern as you were telling the story. When they have time apart, it's like Holly gets attention from other men, and maybe
She starts to blossom.
they treat her better or treat her differently, and it's like they maybe support her and help her be her best her. And then she gets back around Ira, and I think she quickly realizes he's just the same old Ira, even though he's cool and smart and all that stuff. But I don't know why. I just don't understand his insecurities. Because to beat someone down like that, you have to be insecure.
Well, it seems
He
like
can't let
all
anyone
Ira
shine.
wants is he wants to be the center of attention.
Right.
All he wants out of her is kind of like this hippie housewife.
Right. And
He
she's
doesn't
beautiful.
want her contributing. He doesn't want her speaking. When they're around friends, they go hang out with writers and college professors and whatever. And it's always just like, Holly, get in the kitchen and make us some food while we sit around and have debates and conversation. And she's not really allowed to contribute. And when she does, he just tries to make her feel stupid, drags what she said.
Yeah. It's like he just wants this pretty arm candy who is smart as well. Because, of course, Ira's going to be with a smart girl because he's so smart. He just wants this arm candy. But he can't. I don't think he could ever accept her challenging him or possibly winning a debate in front of others.
Oh, no.
That would not be okay.
Fred and Elizabeth Maddux didn't hear from their daughter Holly for the whole month of September 1977. She had flooded her parents and siblings with warm correspondence for weeks. It abruptly stopped. When nothing came in October, Holly's parents were very worried. Holly, who had always sent these beautiful handmade cards, did not respond to her mother's birthday on October 2nd. Liz Maddux finally called Ira to ask where her daughter might be. Ira answered the phone and said he was about to call and ask the same thing. In the 4-minute phone call, Ira noted he had not heard from Holly, but was tired of collecting her mail, but he didn't know where she was. Now, if your girlfriend's mother calls you worried, has not heard from her child, are you going to just bring up that you don't like having to collect her mail?
I'm sick of feeding her cat, so you tell her when you see her to get on back here. No, again, dismissive. He doesn't. I would be concerned if her parents, for whatever reason, thought that she were unable to get a hold of her or thought that maybe she needs help. I would be concerned instantly.
On October 20th, Liz called Ira again, this time with a list of questions so she could construct a timeline. Where was Holly? It had been nearly 2 months since anyone had heard from the woman. The Madduxes asked a friend with FBI connections if they could help find Holly. They also contacted an old friend of Holly's who was an assistant U.S. attorney for help. The lawyer's friend reached out to law enforcement, reporting Holly missing. Ira said he'd been in the bathtub when Holly went to the store and never returned.
But he's not reaching out to anyone else. Ira didn't call her parents asking questions, right?
So just one day, he's in the bathtub and Holly leaves, and then he just never hears from her again.
Yeah, that's whatever.
So a detective began looking into Holly's disappearance. West Philadelphia was crime-ridden, so a missing flower child wasn't the most alarming case they were working on. A detective made calls and interviewed people who knew Holly. Since she disappeared, Holly had $21,000 in a bank account, which went untouched. When Ira was interviewed, he retold the same story. They had been in Europe and returned separately. Holly was to move into an apartment in the fall. Ira had not seen nor heard from Holly since she left on September 12th. Her clothing and belongings remained at Ira's apartment. Ira claimed Holly called him 2 days after walking out. She told Ira she was okay, but asked him not to look for her, and she never called back. The police didn't think Holly's disappearance met the criteria for a missing persons investigation, and they had already put forth more effort than usual, especially when it seemed the woman wanted to be left alone. Christmas and New Year's came without a word from Holly. The Madduxes hired a private investigator who happened to be a former FBI bureau chief in Tyler, Texas, to look into their missing daughter.
But they don't really know if she truly wants to be alone because all they have is Ira's account of what is supposedly said.
Right, Dylan.
No, I just, as an investigator, I don't think that would be enough for me. You know what I mean? You take someone, and this is, their friends, family, everyone except for the one person, the person she's with, and you take them, and they're all of a sudden out of their normal behaviors. They fall off the face of the earth. They stop talking to everyone. I mean, that's got to be concerning, right? I'm sure people might walk away from their lives in some point or another, but it's got to be rare.
Well, I think a lot of times, and especially during this particular time, Dylan, we have tons of missing people. We have runaways and victims of serial killers, and their families are being told, like, well, they just want to be gone. They left.
And you do hear stories.
And they don't want to look into it. I mean, we know, like, the 60s and especially the 70s, law enforcement was notorious for turning away missing persons cases. They didn't want to get involved. They assumed everybody was a runaway.
Yeah. Everybody's run away. And you do have the counterculture. And you do really have kids who leave their hometowns to go to places in California and different parts of the country to be part of that counter revolution, if you will. Or, I'm sorry, counterculture.
Well, the private detective wasn't convinced that Holly had met foul play or was in trouble. She was a free spirit. Holly could be anywhere. She was known to travel and had friends in other places. It was clear she'd wanted to get away from Ira. Perhaps she was maintaining distance from him. In light of Holly keeping in touch with her family, the Maddux's fears might be justified. Bob Stevens, the investigator, decided to subcontract another private eye in Philadelphia to help him look for Holly. Because, again, he's in Texas. He doesn't want to go spend the Maddux's money living on their dime in Philly. So he's like, it would be cheaper and probably more effective if we just get a private eye there.
Yeah.
To do some work for me.
A local person, they know the area. It's going to be, like you said, cheaper for them to just pay him a fee instead of room and board and all that.
So he goes to Philly to find another private eye. And together, he and this new guy, they decide to call Ira, but he does not want to meet with the detectives. He told them Holly had wanted to cut ties and start anew, and leaving her parents behind was part of that plan. Immediately, the private detectives felt Ira Einhorn was a suspect in the woman's disappearance. Having spoke to him for just a few minutes, he was just a big walking red flag.
Yeah, and honestly, how could you not view him with a suspicious eye?
Since Ira wouldn't cooperate, the detectives sought out his parents for help. As parents, Bea and Joseph understood what the Madduxes were going through and agreed to be as helpful as possible. Joe Einhorn told the investigators that if Ira knew where Holly was, he would tell detectives. Ira's excuses about being too busy to meet with detectives was valid, according to his parents. He had been busy planning a week-long environmental festival, and they didn't really have time to speak with him either. Like, he was so busy he couldn't talk to his parents.
So you can't even take 30 minutes out of your busy life to talk about your missing girlfriend.
He has an environmental festival to plan, Dylan. You don't understand.
I'm trying to save us all here.
He's trying to create a new paradigm.
It's the world I'm talking about, folks.
According to Bea Einhorn, Ira was hysterical when Holly went missing. In an attempt to find Holly, Ira had claimed to call the police, hospitals, morgues, and friends. Ira had been brokenhearted. The detectives looked into the possibility Holly might be in the Philadelphia area still working as a go-go dancer or maybe even as a prostitute. There was a bank teller that worked at Holly's bank that recognized her photo and said she had actually seen Holly recently at the bank. When questions arose about whether Ira might harm Holly, most people noted Ira's philosophy of nonviolence. A man who had rented Ira's apartment, his name was Rick Einhorn, told investigators, quote, "The woman just doesn't want to be found. It's that simple." So when Ira went to Europe, he would sublet his apartment for the summer, and this guy happened to be renting the apartment. And actually, he's one of the last people to see Holly alive.
How the hell does Rick know if she wants to be found or not? I mean, come on, Rick.
When pressed, and told that Holly might be a victim of foul play, this guy, Rick, was more willing to cooperate. He had been one of the last people to see Holly. Rick said Holly seemed like a new person after the trip to Europe and told him of her plans that she was going to move into a new apartment and get away from Ira.
Oh.
So he's basing this on a conversation that he had with her, that she
Okay.
just was gone and didn't want to be found. The landlord of Holly's new apartment handed over a letter written by Holly in the days before she was last seen. Holly had stayed for a period at Fire Island in a friend's house before returning to Philadelphia to finalize her move. While she's staying at Fire Island, she met a man, she claimed. In the letter, Holly inquired about the lease and the keys. So she's writing this landlord like, oh, I've met this really nice guy. We're pursuing a relationship, possibly. By the way, when can I get them keys?
Yeah, I need them keys.
By June of 1978, investigators had a clearer picture of Holly's last movements before the disappearance back in September. But they had no accurate information about where the woman had gone. Both private investigators were convinced Holly Maddux had met with foul play and that Ira Einhorn was withholding essential details about the case. A year after Holly vanished, Philadelphia police issued a missing persons flyer, finally. In addition, someone would be assigned to her case. So this whole time, the police have not wanted to get involved. It's only after the private investigators have done all the legwork
Yeah, did their job
and
for
like
them.
handed over, a summary of their findings that police are like, well, okay, I guess we'll look into this.
It's so frustrating every time no matter the era, the decade, when you have these investigators that either don't want to admit, murders or cases of victims may be connected or anything like that. And it's always with the missing people. They just brush people off. And probably today, somewhere in America, somewhere in the world, a family was told, don't worry about it. They don't want to be found, or they're just a runaway.
My family's been told that.
Well, you did run away from your family, though.
No, I'm saying my family's been told that about, I have a cousin that's been
yeah.
missing
No, yeah.
for going on 2 years. And the article that was written about her disappearance in the newspaper, police suggest that she was just absconding from justice because she had some criminal charges.
Some
pending.
minor criminal
that
charges.
she ran off so she wouldn't have to face these charges.
Right.
When she has no one out of town, no friends, no family, no one supporting her financially, and we've not heard from her in 2 years.
She ran away. She's hiding from
She just
these,
ran off.
broke all ties with friends and
there's
family.
a lot of rumors floating around that she met foul play, but of course the law enforcement just likes to, blow it off. Like she just took off.
If you want to,
it really sickens me when you do a search for my cousin's name, this article pops up, basically saying like she's just ran off, and the missing persons cases aren't always what they seem. Is like the title of the article.
what?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Oh my God. I'm going to see who wrote that, and I'm going to write them a strongly worded letter about how big a piece of shit they are.
Oh, we know who wrote it.
Oh.
We know the reporter who covered yeah.
Oh, I'm a fight. Let's go.
Yeah.
For
So I'm
charity.
just saying, like, this happens.
No,
It's
it
happened
really
to my
does.
family.
No, it's true.
That's what we've been told. Is, well, she just took off.
Knowing they probably didn't give it the second thought or even for
Well,
an
no,
hour
it's like
investigated.
she's a troubled person with a criminal past, and they just don't care.
They don't. And we've heard these stories many times in this small, tiny county we live in.
And I think the only way they'll care is if they eventually like find her body somewhere.
Or someone comes
and
forward.
And then they probably won't even care then to solve it. Anyway, it's really disheartening. After almost a year, investigators reached Joyce Petchek on the phone. She was the friend with whom Holly had stayed on Fire Island. Joyce mentioned a man named Saul Lapidus. Holly had met him in August of 1977 and had spent time on his boat. He had expressed worry since Holly had gone missing. So he'd even reached out to Joyce like, hey, Holly and I hit it off. We spent this great time together.
Right.
I don't know what's happened to her. Do you know? When investigators met with Saul, he enlightened them more than during the 8 months of searching for Holly. Saul had known Ira because his former wife had had an affair with Ira.
That will make someone stick in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I guess they kind of went their separate ways. So he was just like, whatever. During this time, Saul said Ira returned to the U.S. because, he had been in Europe and began calling Holly, wanting to rekindle their relationship. He promised to father a child with Holly. These promises were mixed with threats about what Ira might do if Holly didn't get back together with him.
Yeah, see, if you're around Holly hearing about this, you got to be like, what in the world? This is not normal behavior.
So in the days leading up to her disappearance, Holly is in New York City with this guy, Saul, at his home. And Ira has started calling her at this guy's apartment, like harassing her, it sounds like, and pressuring her to come back to Philadelphia and see him.
Let me have a baby with you.
Right.
Or else. What the hell, dude? Damn, you think that works?
Ira demanded that Holly return to their Race Street apartment in Philadelphia, or Ira would abandon her possessions in the street. She tried to phone friends to see if anyone was available to go calm Ira down, but was unable to reach any of their friends. Holly felt she needed to travel to Philadelphia, tying up the loose ends with Ira and retrieving belongings from the apartment because she was set on moving out. And he's threatening he's going to throw her shit out in the street.
So she's fine. It sounds like she's finally done with Ira's BS.
She's finally done with Ira. She's met this new guy. She likes him a lot. She wants to move out. But she feels like she has to go get her things.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's your stuff, you want, a lot of times people have, especially, personal items that just you can't replace, or some family heirlooms or anything like that. And B, it's your stuff. You feel like, it's the right thing. I get to go get my stuff.
That was the last time Saul saw Holly Maddux on September 9th of 1977. After a few days with no word from his new girlfriend, Saul tried reaching her in Philadelphia. He told friends Holly was missing and suspected Ira Einhorn had done something to her.
Well, how could he not?
Detectives learned Holly had asked several friends to help get her belongings from the apartment as Holly did not want to see Ira. No one had been available. Holly and Ira had gone on a double date with a couple the night before she had disappeared. They were hard-pressed to imagine Ira harming Holly. So these folks that had gone to dinner with Holly and Ira, they were like, yeah, we saw them. Things seemed normal
yeah.
Although she seemed like she wasn't really into this, that like they weren't a couple anymore. She's talking about moving out.
I think Ira is skilled at presenting a mask to the public and to other people.
So tenants who lived in the apartment building were questioned. Several pointed to the fact that Ira had a padlock on a closet door and seemed funny about letting anyone open the door. Another neighbor who had lived below Ira complained about a foul odor. The smell had finally dissipated. But what struck investigators as strange was that when Ira traveled in the summer of 1978, it was the first time he didn't sublet his apartment in 7 years.
Oh, wow.
The tenant first noticed the apartment odor around September 20th of 1977. His first impression was that it, quote, smelled like blood. So this is just a week after Holly has gone missing.
And that would add up, honestly, given time of decomposition, a body breaking down. In about a week or so, it'd be strong.
By September 26th, the smell had gotten worse. It was a pungent, overwhelming stench, organic in nature, and described as less tolerable than human excrement. A brownish stain seemed to be leaking through the closet. So it's leaking from Ira's closet down into this apartment, this lower floor. It was the source of the odor. The tenants worked to clean the closet and eliminate the odor for several months, but it persisted. The landlord's explanation was likely rotting wood. Someone suggested a dead squirrel had gotten stuck between the floors of the apartment building. The reports of the foul odor were critical in building a case against Ira Einhorn. The information would be used to guide interviews and hopefully get a search warrant. On March 28th of 1979, with a signed search warrant, a team of law enforcement officers and forensic investigators rang Ira's buzzer. About 70 minutes later, police located a body in a trunk in Ira's closet. Holly Maddux's dental records were requested to make an ID on the body.
And that's just a formality at that point. I mean, you got to, as investigators, you got to be figuring this is definitely Holly's remains.
After discovering the body, a police officer said to Einhorn, quote, "It looks like we found Holly Maddux." Ira replied, "You found what you found."
It's like he don't even care, dude. He's cold.
Ira was arrested and charged with Holly's murder. He denied killing his ex-girlfriend. His lawyer secured a $40,000 bail. He was released after a Montreal socialite named Barbara Bronfman paid 10% of the bond. Ira and his friends harbored considerable criticism of the U.S. government, and Ira seized the opportunity to act as if the arrest was a massive conspiracy against him for speaking out about mind control experiments. Yet this idea meant someone had killed Holly in 1977, planted her body in Ira's apartment without his knowledge, so that it would be discovered there nearly 2 years later.
2 years? Wow. And they locked his closet door, and he had no idea why the closet door was locked with a padlock. I mean, is anybody supposed to believe this BS?
Well, all the theories in the world could explain Holly's mummified, fully clothed remains in Ira's steamer trunk in a padlocked closet.
Yeah, nobody's buying that bullshit.
When anyone asked Ira directly if he murdered Holly, he would deny it. Of course not, he would say, "I loved her." He would say, "Do you know me as a violent person? Why would I kill the woman I loved? Even if I did kill her, which I didn't, would I be so stupid as to leave the body in the trunk in my apartment for so long?"
Well, I mean, yes, apparently you are that stupid, sir.
Yet, for some who had known Ira for years, it just didn't make sense. The idea that Ira killed Holly. Instead, they lapped up the story that Ira had been framed. A friend named David Ehrlich said, quote, "It doesn't add up. Ira was very meticulous. He knew where every book was in his apartment. Everything was organized. How could someone who paid so much attention to detail just leave a body?"
Well, how could someone who pays so much attention to detail not notice the planted body of his former lover in his closet for 2 years with a big padlock on it, people? Come on.
According to the autopsy, head injuries had killed Holly. At least 10 or 12 fractures, crushing blows, were delivered to her head from above and to the left and right sides. She had broken eye sockets and depressed skull fractures. The lower jaw was also fractured. It was speculated the weapon had been a blunt object, like perhaps the base of a lamp.
Damn, that is a very, very violent
It is.
attack.
The state was building a solid circumstantial case against Ira Einhorn, the centerpiece being the discovery of Holly's body inside the apartment. It didn't look good for Ira. There would be an arraignment with an inevitable trial to follow. Some friends told Ira he would be best served by pleading guilty. Ira's attorney thought his best hope was to use an insanity defense. Ira refused. His credibility would vanish if he did this. He said all of his hard work and ideas would be forgotten.
This guy, he can't see past his own ego, can he? Or he can't see past himself, can he?
No.
Like, bro, nobody's worried about your reputation in academia
Well,
at the
he's
moment.
worried about it.
Yeah, you're about to go to jail forever for murdering your girlfriend, bud.
While released on bond pending a murder trial, Ira thought it was a free pass to travel. He drove to California. He went to Canada via Woodstock, New York, and planned to visit Europe again. The Seagram heiress, Mrs. Bronfman, Barbara Bronfman, was giving Ira money. They were his most prominent supporters, and they would actually spend the next 20 years funding Ira.
Is that the same socialite that paid his bill?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to get into that, Dylan. Ira moved into another apartment closer to his parents' house. He had a female roommate. Her father had joined the Reagan administration as a speechwriter. She's going to actually become his girlfriend, this young woman. In the first few days of 1981, Ira sold his car and withdrew money from the bank. He told friends his plan was to go into exile. By January 13th, Ira had arrived in London, so he's supposed to go to trial.
And so basically, he's calling it exile, but you're going to run.
He runs.
You're running.
He phoned his roommate/girlfriend to say that he had made it, and she was planning to join him soon. He was scheduled to appear at a pretrial hearing in the following days, but Ira had no plans to attend. He was overseas, not intending to return to the United States for a murder trial. A former girlfriend who had dated Ira in 1962 came forward to police recounting how the relationship devolved, and she became increasingly afraid of Ira. She said he would take kittens into the shower because he liked listening to them scream.
What? Oh, no, you take that back. You tell me this monster did that to poor little kittens?
Now, this takes place in the early 60s when he was staying in Bennington, Vermont with a girlfriend that he had met during his undergraduate time. Writings from this time showcased Ira's head was in a dark place, often writing about sadism and death. After breaking up with Ira, this woman told police that he appeared at her Bennington College dorm room. He put his hands around her neck and choked her until she passed out. On July 31st of 1962, Ira wrote in a diary, quote, "To kill what you love when you can't have it seems so natural that strangling Rita last night seemed so right."
Oh, my God.
She didn't press charges, but instead met with college officials to ensure that Ira was permanently banned from campus.
Yeah, but I mean, criminals don't follow the rules. I mean, come on.
Another woman named Judy experienced Ira's intense passion, abuse, and wrath. Ira stalked Judy for months before finally realizing that she did not want to see him. Like, she didn't want to go out with him. She didn't want to see him, but he just kept pursuing her. In the early spring of 1966, he wrote about killing Judy. On March 17th of 1966, Ira arrived at Judy's apartment after she agreed to have coffee, nothing else. Judy didn't want to discuss their relationship despite Ira's ideas that they needed to get back together. Hear me out. I'm Ira.
Have you not been informed of whose presence?
Don't you know who I am?
This reminds me of a great T-shirt I saw today. It says, "A real man would chase you," and it's Michael Myers.
So they are having coffee at her apartment. She's like trying to let him know, I do not want to be with you. Like, you need to leave me be. And when she turned her back to him, he appeared behind her with a Coke bottle. He hit her with the glass bottle in the head. The bottle broke. She was bleeding. So she's bleeding all over the place. Ira grabs her, wrestles her to the floor, and begins strangling the woman. She passed out. When she awakened, neighbors were in the apartment having heard the commotion. They're trying to care for her. Are you okay? And by then, Ira was gone. But once again, Ira had lost control.
That very well could have been the weapon of choice that he killed her with, a heavy glass Coke bottle like that. Yeah.
When Ira addressed the dark side of his personality, it was always in tones of this romantic hero, as if violence showed his importance or something. Like, well, I'm this and I'm that, but I could also be this. But isn't it a beautiful part of your personality?
That I love you so much, I'm going to kill you.
It's so weird. One friend said, quote, "The ultimate crime is that Ira betrayed the 60s. And friends felt betrayed. Ira had spoken for years about nonviolence and positive transformations, only to cross out everything he stood for. Many people couldn't stomach Ira Einhorn. His friends grew scarce. No one believed Ira could live on the run either. Now going by Ben Moore, Ira moved into an expensive apartment in Dublin, far from what he had rented in Philadelphia. So in Philadelphia, he had kind of rented this rundown apartment. It was cluttered with books and secondhand furniture, whatever. But now he's on this heiress's dime. He's living in this very well-to-do apartment that's nicely decorated.
It's so unfair for someone like him to even be in a nice apartment, in his exile in Dublin, Ireland.
He told others, that his profession was a writer while he's living in Ireland, going by Ben Moore. He's a writer. He held New Age retreats on the weekends near some mountains, I guess outside of Dublin. He would hold these informal philosophy seminars at his apartment. Intellectuals and artists would flock to his apartment to hang out. So he's like creating his own little social circle in life in Ireland. And none of these people know he's a murderer.
So, this guy is so damn full of himself. Even after this very serious matter has come up, he just really thinks he can just say, run away from it, ignore it, and, as long he just do whatever he wants.
Now, eventually, Ira moves to France, where he lives with his wealthy Swedish wife, a woman named Annika Floden, in a converted windmill.
Wow.
Yeah. He goes by the name Eugene Mélion for years. It wasn't until 1997 that authorities arrested Ira in Champagne-Morton. Ira fought extradition. Once Ira had exhausted all avenues to fight extradition to the United States, he slit his throat.
Wow.
However, the European Court of Human Rights ruled against him, and in 2001, he was finally sent to the United States to answer for the murder of Holly Maddux after 23 years abroad.
He got all those extra years of doing whatever he wants, all because people were willing to support him and his lifestyle.
Taking the stand in his defense, Ira again touted the conspiracy defense. The government had set him up for murder. It was either the CIA or the KGB. He also told the jury that he had a Virgo moon as part of his defense.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What do Virgos do in the moon?
Some astrological person out there can let us know what that means.
Yeah. Someone please explain
So in my
this to me.
defense, I have a Virgo moon.
Yeah. I'm just want to let you guys know Mars was in retrograde last week and all that stuff wasn't my fault.
I can't help it. I'm a Leo rising.
What the hell? I'm an Aries about to be up in your ass.
Unfortunately for Ira, it only took the jury 2 hours to find him guilty, despite his astrological signs and birth chart. On October 17th of 2002, Ira was found guilty of murdering Holly Maddux and given life in prison without parole. The judge, William Mazzola, read the sentence out loud, then added that Ira was, quote, an intellectual dilettante who preyed upon the uninitiated, the uninformed, unsuspecting, and inexperienced.
Damn, I don't even know what dilettante means, but I agree.
Philadelphia District Attorney Lim Abraham summarized his conviction by saying, quote, metaphorically speaking, Ira Einhorn and his Virgo moon are toast.
Oh, that's great.
Ira died in prison on April 3rd of 2020 at age 79. Sadly, the Madduxes never saw justice. Her father, Fred, committed suicide in 1988. It was after dealing with a long illness. Just 2 years later, Holly's mother died of emphysema.
That's so sad in these cases. But, I mean, justice finally did come in a form. But it's so very sad when the parents and the family don't get to know that Ira's finally made to answer for what he did to Holly.
So my main resource for today was The Unicorn Secret by Stephen Levy. A great book. So much information. So much more we could have talked about, but we don't have 6 episodes.
No, we don't have 6 episodes.
Newspaper sources, The Guardian, The New York Times, and I read an article from Philadelphia Magazine.
Wow, I've never heard this story. And Ira is a big old POS. And I hope he does not RIP. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
Yeah, fuck him, dude. I hope in his new paradigm, he is a donkey in a donkey, or he's the subject with the donkey in a Tijuana donkey show.
Well, Barbara Bronfman, or whatever, for 20 years, she funded Ira's life until she read this book, The Unicorn Secret.
Really?
And learned the truth about Ira. And that's when she stopped funding him and apologized that she had been such a staunch supporter.
Wow.
when she learned the truth about Ira.
Yeah, because he's giving her a big old line of BS.
I'm sure.
That's his move.
That's what he does.
It's the CIA trying to get me. I'm being set up by the government.
He's just a big old fake and phony.
Yeah. And
Like, how are you out in the world, like, trying to lead people and preaching nonviolence and the hippie culture, and then you're abusing women.
Abusing women left and right.
And
Violent. Very violently.
Murdering a woman.
Yeah.
And never accepting responsibility for it.
Because he's fake and he's a damn lie. And he told it all that time. What a story. Thank you so much for that, Heather.
You're welcome. I thought it was a very intriguing tale.
It was.
I'd never heard of this case before. I don't know how.
No, I'm surprised.
But once I got into the thick of it, I was like, whoa, this story is wild.
The meat and potatoes.
Yes.
It was definitely a very chewy story, and I enjoyed it.
Well, good. I know how much you like to talk about gurus.
And speaking of gurus, I must say,
Peace, love, and gurus.
I've been approached by multiple people in our home county today. I didn't know if you knew this. There was a sighting of the 7 tribes, or is it the 12 tribes?
It's the 12 tribes.
12 tribes was in our county recruiting people today to come live their life with them into their, I'm going to call them their group.
Where did you?
They were in Canton. Yes, I've been approached by multiple people. They asked me if I knew about this local cult. And I said, yes, I do. Me and my wife have talked about it before. So you just never know when people invite you to come live with them and help them sell their products at their successful businesses. You just never know where it's going to lead.
Well, they actually invited me some years ago to join.
Are you putting me on?
No, I've told this story before.
You having a piss?
No, I've told this story before on the podcast. I'm sorry that you have the memory of a goldfish.
Well, yeah, tell it again. Or can you put it in you really invited you to join?
Yeah, so they have Gladheart Farms in Asheville. It's like in East Asheville in the Oakley area.
Okay.
And years ago, when I was still with my baby daddy, right?
Oh.
He worked for AT&T, basically, and was working on this project to bring like high-speed internet. And, I don't know, whatever. He was out in that area working, and we would meet up for lunch quite often if we both had, we were in the same area because he kind of worked out of town a lot and stuff. So I go meet him. He's like, hey, I'm over in this neighborhood. It'd be best if you just swing by, pick me up, and we'll go to lunch. And then I don't have to take my big truck out, right?
Right.
He
had a big truck.
The big cable truck with all the shit on it.
I bet.
So I go pick him up. And when I get there, he is having conversation with this group of ladies, okay? And they're all dressed like the Pioneer Woman.
Really?
But I don't mean like in the colorful clothes she sells at Walmart. I mean like they look like Pioneer women.
Skirts down to their ankles.
Yes, boots, long skirts.
Collared shirts, long fluffy sleeves.
That
really?
Very, I don't even know what you'd call that.
You see the
Just
similar
the
look?
prairie fashion,
Yeah.
right? Like I always associate it with Big Love, the HBO show.
Yeah.
The Chloe Savini character.
The Church of God people sometimes are in similar garb.
Well, these Mormon women that were like married to Warren Jeffs or whatever, like
Yeah.
that kind. Okay, so that's what they look like, right? And there was a group of them, and they had brought him some tea, because he'd been out working hard in the sun.
He's a big lad
so
too.
they offer.
I bet they were watching him.
Do you want my baby daddy?
No, but apparently you do.
Like you two hit it off quite well. So,
all you can talk about is his big reel of cable and his big truck. Everything's big around this guy. He's big too. So what?
Well, I'm sorry that he's 6'4.5", Dylan.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. Don't leave the half out.
Yeah. I'm sorry that he towers over you.
He don't tower over this girlfriend.
All 5'10" of you.
I'm 6 foot even. You take that shit back.
Yeah. No, but okay. So
5'10".
They've offered him this tea, and then they're chatting, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is yerba mate tea. Like we grow this, and we own like our group, owns this or whatever." Well, then they invite us to come look at their farm. Would you like a tour?
This is how they do it.
We're just like, okay. So we go do a little tour. They have yurts on the property. We were kind of interested in, my dream has always been to own a yurt and live in it. Anyway, we were like, oh, cool. So we go check out the yurts and whatever. So this takes up like our whole lunch break. And then they invite us to come to a potluck. And then they start explaining to us, oh, well, we're like the 12 tribes and blah, blah, blah. And you guys should come back for this potluck on Friday. Okay, so, we leave, whatever. I immediately go to work and start to like research because I'm like, what are the 12 tribes?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And because I just thought it was some hippie commune.
Yeah,
or
they own a
something.
tea co-op.
Yeah,
Organically grown
well,
tea.
it is Asheville, right?
Yeah.
Start looking into it, and then there's all this information. And you have to remember, this is like 2008, 2009. But there was still a ton of information on the internet about the 12 tribes, essentially being a cult and like not good things, right?
Yeah.
So I tell him, like, oh my gosh, I think we were just recruited by a cult. They want us to come back to their potluck and their drum circle, and we're not going. And he was kind of like, but I kind of want to go just for and I was like, no.
He wanted to go for the novelty of it.
No. Well, and he's kind of crunchy grooves.
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, no, bro, you'll end up in this fucking cult. We're not going.
They were reeling him in, bud. He wanted to go check it out and
But
kick it in the yard.
I've told this story before, Dylan.
I don't know that you've told that. I don't think I've ever heard that story.
That's a damn lie.
Even if people can find audio of me listening intently to this story before, I think it's interesting. So look, here's the thing.
I've told you multiple times the story.
Here's the thing.
Because that's, I think, my only brush with possible cult membership.
I have a big truck too. I just want everyone to know that. I have a big truck with new tires. Okay, how you like that?
You got a lot of big tools, Dylan. We get it.
I have big tools.
We get it. You're 6 foot on Tinder.
6 foot even, bud.
We get it.
Dead on the nose. It's weird.
Yeah.
No, I really am 6 foot though.
Of course.
I mean, look, 5'11". Look, oh, you didn't leave the half. I'm 5'11 3/4. So I mean, come on, that's 6 foot, right?
Sure.
I mean, they measure me at the DMV.
Cool.
I didn't.
It's a cool story.
When I was 16, I didn't make this number up.
Oh my gosh.
The state of North Carolina assigned me this.
Why are you so threatened by that extra like 4.5 inches?
Oh, I know.
My baby daddy has on you, huh?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. No, but look, big guys don't scare me.
Oh, I didn't even mean that it was.
You didn't
6
mean
foot.
it's hot. Oh yeah. I think I got it. That's fine. Because you know what?
I'm not sure if he listens, but if he does, shout out to James.
Oh.
What's up, dude?
Yeah, what's up, bud? I do want to, you are cool, and I want to hear your stories more. I enjoy being around James. I actually like James as well.
No, he's cool.
No, but big guys don't scare me because I'm a pretty big guy myself. Yeah? Okay. And on that note, I think we've had I knew it.
So,
she's over here glowing,
so
folks.
you're saying
she is fucking glowing.
No, I need to
thinking
know more.
about something else.
I need to know more about this. You were saying they were out in Canton.
Yes, they were.
So
in
they're
Canton.
just randomly like on the street, like, hey,
they had like the big
join
bus.
My culty compound.
I want to do a follow up.
We have a restaurant in Chattanooga where you can come work for free.
I want to. They actually have multiple very successful businesses
they do.
that they fund their cult with, or their alleged tea co-op. But no, my daughter Willow mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
And I was at the groomer picking up our child Rufus, and Roy and Tessa came up to me.
Oh, our buddies.
It's our buddies, which we'll get up with them later, and they were asking me about it as well. So I'm going to research this, and they were in their groovy, hippy dippy bus, and I'm not sure exactly what was happening, but if your loved one or your child is not beside you right now and you're wondering where they're at, they might be at the tea co-op in Asheville at the the potluck drum circle, enjoying a refreshing tea and learning about the 12 tribes.
Well, if you want to go visit their small organic farm about 2 miles from downtown Asheville, they welcome visitors and volunteers.
We're going to go.
I'm not going.
I'm going with like an inside edition camera and my glasses.
I have no desire to associate with these people.
Look, here's what I want to do. I want to go.
The Yellow Deli is the model, the business that they have in a number of locations.
I'm going to go, and I'm just going to make them think that I'm all in. Like, just be way over the top about joining. And then last second, I'll be like, I don't think so. And but boom, joke's on you. 12 tribes. I'm a tribe of my own. Okay? That's what's going on over here.
Some people have described the 12 tribes as a cult on the Appalachian Trail because they seem to really like through hikers and want to like greet them and feed them, and you can come back and shower at our place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just really nice people. Tea aficionados. I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go visit them. It's going to be a solo adventure. Heather's already said she will not go anywhere near it. I will report back to our listeners what I discover.
I feel like you are going to end up in you're going to end up in trouble.
I'm going to take over, dude. I'll be their new cult leader. But you know what? It's going to be a cult that does good for society. I'm going to deprogram everyone, and I'm going to reprogram in the name of Dylan.
But they do run Mate Factor, a yerba mate tea company, and there are people on the internet who say they're not a cult. They're beautiful people who enjoy living simply in a loving community.
Okay, those are left by cult members.
Everyone,
those comments are
everyone is free to leave whenever they want.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah, just don't try to.
Oh my
leave.
God, it's like the Stepford Wives.
Okay, anyway, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mountain Murders. I am going to tuck Dylan in. I think it's past his bedtime.
Heather is so tired. She worked so hard on this story. Thank you, Heather. I'm going to tuck her in before she tucks me in.
Thank you. We'll be back with another midweek. We may do some more spooky. Dylan, we have more haunted murder houses, ghost stories. We have all kinds of cool stuff to talk about this month.
Boobish.
Are you excited?
I can't wait.
I love October.
Now we're going to go watch a scary movie.
We are?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's cold. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. It's been cold the past couple of... I shut down. And then I promise we're going to end the episode. But when we get into fall, like I've been looking forward to fall.
Yeah.
But not cold weather so much. I mean, I've been looking for cooler temperatures, but like it just got cold.
We love our big, creepy Edwardian house, but it is not winter friendly.
It is cold up in this house and it's cold outside. And so for like the last 2 days, I've refused to move because it's cold.
Yeah.
So I just am layered with like a blanket wrapped around me and like I can't move out of this spot because it's so cold.
I'm suspecting my wife is a reptile.
Yeah,
folks.
it takes me a few days to adjust.
All right.
But I can't be productive when it's initially cold.
Okay, well, I'm going to take you upstairs and warm you up. Yeah.
That sounds like a threat.
That's why I'm going to cover you with blankets, wrap you up in blankets.
Okay, now that part sounds good.
Okay.
All right, guys. We'll see you in a couple of days. Bye.
Bye.